Wow, here we are one more time, your program Sankofa and your host MAPHONGA J, discussing the ancient methods of the past, looking into the present and focusing into the future. Sankofa is your program, looking backwards at the future. And as we look more intently towards where we are coming from, we can identify where we are, we can have a picture of where we are going. And for tonight, I would not want to waste any of your time. We have a powerful program, impact packed, and we are going to be discussing African medicines, indigenous medicines, the whole concept of holistic healing and medicines. Before the Europeans came here, did the Africans have a method of healing themselves, looking at their own health? And we have 3 segments in this program, very critical. The first one, the first 15 minutes, I'll take you through personal health issues. And the second half, we're looking at family health issues. The third half, we're looking at community or national health issues. And I would not find a better person to speak to tonight, but I have invited my good friend and comrade in the struggles in the trenches by the name of Gift Ombethe Majodina. Please greet our viewers out there.
Hello to everybody out there. Pleased to be here, Master J.
So maybe let's get right into it. Let's get right into it because I know it's going to get warmed up. I don't want us to waste time with plenary stories. Yeah. Who is Gift Ombethe Majodina? Who is he? Give us a quick brief history. Where you coming from? Your professional career? Where were you born? And etc. Just give us a quick little rundown. Some people out there don't know you as much as I do. So share a little bit about yourself. Who is Gift Majodina?
Well, Gift Majodina is a guy, a person, a human who was born and bred in Vosloorus.
Vosloorus?
Yes.
That's Johannesburg?
Johannesburg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the East Rand.
Okay.
Under the Katoras banner.
Mm-hmm.
So I am born there. Most of my family comes from there. I am born Tsepiso, Gift Majodina.
Mm-hmm.
And by profession, right now, I am a Sangoma. I am a traditional healer by calling and by profession. So my journey begins, Master J, when one is beginning on a journey to try and understand who they are in the world. I think any human person comes to that point in their life. So for me, it came very early, but without the awareness that it wasn't just about me trying to know who I am, but there was already something else that was in the background of what was happening in my life process. See, I am born from so my grandmom, on my maternal side, she was what others would term a prophetess. Now, I was very ignorant of these things, as others would put it, because I grew up in a very Western influenced life, if I may put it like that, because I moved away from my family during the riots, Emalokshini, and all of those stuff. So I moved and I was further away from them. So I had an exposure of a whole lot of things in terms of life and trying to understand who one is. So the journey leads, I'm trying to piece. Master J.
Trying to put pieces together.
Trying to put these pieces together, because at some point you get to the point where you're like, there's something wrong with the world. Yes, it's beautiful and it has all its dimensions, but on a personal front, there are things that when you begin to interrogate, you like, there's an imbalance of some sort here. So for me, it went in that route. So it took me now to the Eastern Cape, Shell. Now this is where my ancestral home on my paternal side is from. So I find myself there wanting to understand the roots of who is the soul. I understand that I'm a child. I was given a name. I was given an identity of some sort, and I lived to a particular identity until such a time that I was like, can I define my own reality? Can I understand who am I from the source of my being? Only to find out that I actually had a calling.
You had a calling.
I had a calling.
I know we're going to get into the calling part.
By it.
Let's take a few steps backwards so that we can trace it nicely. High school, college, training, and etc. Just a professional side.
So
Maybe I want maybe to introduce that other side of you as to, you know, you don't just wake up in the morning. Because the cliche that we have out there is that immediately someone speaks of indigenous or African spirituality or medicine or healing or art or craft. The first thing that crosses enough, we, particularly the educated Africans, quote unquote educated, because they're actually not educated, is to think that those people who are involved in African stuff, even when you see us looking like this, the first thing is that amaqab. You know, these are uneducated, these are primitive, these are uninformed, these are backward, these are rural, these are primitive. You know, all those words that come with it. And at the end of the day, we have one and them traditional healers and etc. And it's almost like the healing is not universal.
Of course.
It is actually limited to a tribe. So just take us through your academic background so that people can understand. You speak good English, you know, by all standards, but that's not a measure of your value.
Of course not.
But it shows me that you actually are circumcised in the corridors of learning.
Of course.
Can you take us through a quick background as to what is your academic preparation?
Okay. So as a young boy, I started my crash Air Force Loras. And then I moved to Durban, where I attended boarding school there. So this was for a period of 4 years. I came back, completed my primary school in a primary school called Colin Mann. And then I moved on to Germiston High. This is where I would begin to see myself flourish as a person, or to begin to understand the elements that make up who I am as an individual. So I graduated through matric at
Germiston High, yes.
Germiston High School. Then after that, Master J, I took a gap year. The gap year with the intent that I just want to understand
myself,
who I am. At that point, then the furthest I went in terms of study was to go into sports science, where I just went into personal training, and that is as far as I went in terms of those academics. And then I was called to our academics, and this is where the vast majority of my life has been.
Professionally,
so,
where did this,
so
or your background, where does it lead you professionally?
Yeah. So now, right after matric, I get lucky, just like another child. I find myself in a corporate world. I worked in the insurance industry for about 4 years or so. At the time that I was leaving the corporate world, I was already at like middle management or so. Yeah, so I was working my way up, but this is not where I was called.
That's an insurance business.
Yeah, in the insurance business.
Okay.
So I learned a lot in that industry and the dynamics thereof.
Helping people to make money when they die.
No, I wasn't short-term insurance. I was doing short-term. Yeah, because there's this long-term insurance. So I was in the short-term because I worked for another company. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say them. Yeah, so I worked there for about 4 years or so, and then after that, then the elders came through and they were like, "You are done with this.
With this kind of.
You are done with this level of."
So what happens? When is the junction? He is a young man pursuing his life, beginning to see some prospects of how his life must run. And then there's a big, I always in my previous life when I used to go do some public speaking, I said, can you imagine a train that is running on its path, and then a rat comes across the train, and you are bound to have the destiny of the rat altered by the destiny of the train. So maybe where was the intersection? When did the train meet the rat? And then your destiny was altered into the gift Majodina that now we're talking to.
Look, when you have a calling, Master J, I don't know if there's a time frame to it. I don't know if there's an alarm.
It all comes together slowly.
It all comes together slowly, because even looking back and looking at some of the experiences that I had, they were actually building me up. To where I was going to go. So it's almost like this journey began as soon as I entered into this planet. But where it actually took, I was a 17-year-old boy. I'm at home raised by a single mom. Hi, mom. I'm this young man. I want to know who I am. Who is my father?
He just said hi, mom. He just said hi, mom, just to make sure wherever mom is, we are sending you greetings from the studio here. Majodina is saying hi, mom, hi, mommy. Maybe this is a celebration to all the mothers out there. And for all the young boys who don't know what to do with women, please don't be violent. If you don't know what to do with them, there are actually doors into this life and universe, and we appreciate all the women out there. Hi, mom. That's what you were saying.
That's what I was saying. I acknowledge her.
Yeah.
I acknowledge because I got to understand what it means to be a woman from the school I am from. So I understand what a woman is. But that is not the question. But so now, at 17,
yes.
Master J, I'm about to finish high school. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I do not have a clue what I want to do. I am talented. I am talented. I am performing, gifted, and all of those things.
You're gifted after all. Your name is Gift, so you're already gifted.
Thanks for that. So finding this sense of identity, and at 17, I make a prayer. We grew up. Most black people grew up in a Christian, Christian schools.
You know, we sing around the primary schools, yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
So now, that is the background. So I'm from an apostolic background, tap and clap.
Yes.
This is where my family, on my maternal side. Yeah. So I'm growing up in that. When I'm in Durban, I am interacting with the Roman Catholic. So now when I'm on my paternal side, they were Roman Catholics.
They were Catholic. On your mother's side?
They were tap and clap. And on my father's side, they are Roman Catholics. So I'm interacting with both these spaces.
Worlds, yes.
And now I'm beginning now to be awakened on another aspect. To another aspect that is me. Because when that began to happen, then I went into a state of shock. Because now I'm saying, what does this all mean? So I go to my pastors, I go to my elders.
You start asking.
I want to know. I want to know, how can I see things? How am I seeing these things and they come to pass? How is it that they are 100% every time that I do? So
you had a deja vu or a premonition or prophetic. You started manifesting, a gift.
Yeah, for lack of a better word. Of being able, now I know.
How does this happen? Dreams, visions, or you're just walking, or you stand somewhere and something comes into your mind?
Look, at the beginning, it's so varied.
It's so varied.
It's varied. At times, when I knew that I had to move now and go, I'm cold. Coming from work, I'm in a taxi, Mpata is Tongwan. My grandmom comes and she speaks. She calls me.
Ugogo yafika.
The Coco I know.
Your grandmother.
My Coco.
You fell asleep in a taxi.
I'm in a taxi, I'm sleeping.
And while you are falling asleep, boom, is a vision, is a dream.
We are having a conversation.
With your grandmother?
I am hearing this person.
With this story, we're going to unpack it. We're not in a hurry. We want to know exactly, because many of us look at this experience with suspicion. But in the night, when we close our eyes, we all dream and we see visions. Unfortunately, our modern society has told us to demonize everything. But this is the reality that we all go through. You and your shadow tonight are sleeping and you're the same height. When you are in that state, you are in the world of the spirit. What happens in that space? Wait for us until after the break. We're going to take over this story and hear exactly what happened to Gift on his spiritual journey. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
The power to defeat coronavirus is in our hands. Play your part by following these 5 basic precautions. Regularly wash your hands with soap and water or sanitizer for at least 20 seconds. Maintain a safe distance of at least 1.5 meters from people around you. Wear a cloth mask at all times when in public. Always cough or sneeze into your elbow or tissue. If you're an employer, screen your employees daily for symptoms of COVID-19 and where appropriate, refer for testing. Working together, we can beat the coronavirus. A message from government.
From rural to urban, we bring you local and international sport.
From Cape to Cairo, from Nairobi to Kinshasa. As we stand out amongst the rest. And we are here to inspire you.
From the Horn of Africa to the Equator's indigenous people.
Galaxy Universal Network. Televisa ditaba tse felletseng. Abapenyi bezindaba nezintatheli ezingesabilutho. Bila woga, upendeleo, atokopi chochote.
Channel 500 on Starset. This is Galaxy Universal Network.
Thank you very much for staying and hanging on with us. We are here in the studio today with Ubabu Gift Ombethe Majodina, who is telling us his experience of where he's coming from. And I know maybe later on they want to unpack this concept of Ombethe. What does it mean also? But maybe for now you're still telling us a juicy part of the story. I was brought up by my grandmother, so I love stories. I love stories, and we would sit around the fireplace. They listen to Gogo telling us stories, quivering and dancing and our hearts pounding and stuff like that. So when I hear these stories, I'm almost encouraged. You are in a taxi, driving, moving away from work, and the sleep overtakes you. And while you're in a moment of sleep, boom, your grandmother walks up to you and begins a conversation.
I ask back, who is this? She says, this is me. Kinna. I'm like, who are you? Because I can hear who you are. Who are you? And then she goes on. She explains to me. She's like, child, the time is coming. You have to go and do this and that. I'm like, Gogo.
What are you saying?
Tsamaya, we look and I call Fetlo.
Lefehlong, what is Lefehlong?
Initiation school.
Okay, go Lefehlong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go to initiation
So you
school.
receive an instruction.
It's an
That
instruction.
you must move towards initiation.
Initiation. It was as clear. So because our first messages are never as clear, as it were, because there's always that doubt. Did I see this? Am I making things up? Is there someone playing a sick joke? What's going on here? So now another dream comes through. In this dream now I'm actually seeing myself.
How fast? What the time space between the two dreams?
Between a month or so.
Within a month?
Yeah.
Within
the month.
Another dream comes big
I'm
again.
receiving messages in continuity to say, you have to go. You have to go. So now, okay, now next dream comes. I'm seeing myself at the initiation school. Now, from my maternal side, they went through what we would call Isporofeta, the prophetic way. Basically, they worked with the spirit from the church side of things. Because what the African managed to do, especially within the context of the South African environment, is that we managed to capture the spirit, even using some of the materials that do not necessarily belong to us. But we managed to capture some things
them down
so that when they speak to me in coming, they're like, we do not care what is in front of us. We do not care. We can use anything. We can overtake anything. if we want to reach you. So there is nothing that can stop.
So religion was never a barrier for you.
So
you could relate across the board.
I could relate across the board. The funny one was Leyob Sangom, Eyob Nyanga, because now there is no trace in my family. As far as everybody has done it, it's been it's been a while. So no one has followed through with the tradition. So as you can imagine, this is a world I do not know what's going on. When I try to come to because I grew up on my maternal side,
both sides,
no one can give me a reference point yet. These are the messages, and now I'm stuck in. How do I trace the history? Who traces it for me to say, yes, we agree, you should be moving in that path? You know what I'm saying? So now at this point now, I have to, I don't know, either believe in myself or
follow the voice that is talking.
It came on. It came on, Master J. Then the messages were coming. The messages were coming. The messages were coming. I would go into bed. Being in bed, as soon as I am asleep, I am out.
You're gone.
I am out of
Where to? There, wherever the there is. You're traveling between realms.
Yeah.
So when you get there, it's a vision, it's a dream. It's practically. I'm trying to remember. I'm asking this from an outside person. Because many of us just hear these stories, and to have someone who is actually in the space, who has gone through the space, relate to us and the reality of what they're experiencing. I think this is what Galaxy Universal TV is all about: bringing real stories, unedited, uncut, no bias, no favoritism. If you're out there and you have your story and it's a true story, there's no fear. Come forward and share your story with us. And I think this is what the ethos that our stories have always been told by those who are watching us through the windows. And they're suspicious of everything happening inside. But for us to have a person who is actually in the space relating the stories, you can see my eyes are wide open. Because it's literally saying, let me hear from the horse exactly what happens there.
Mkulu, at this point, I am asking myself, when my Christian teachings
he's saying this
speaks of heaven, I am trying to find the congruency. Where am I now that I am here?
You have moved.
Am I in heaven?
You are in your visions. You are there.
Am I in heaven?
What do you see there?
Everything.
Because I want to ask this question: with Jesus, is white or black? Because those of you guys who have had a chance at least of peeping into the... Well, we've heard these men of God, go deeper, men of God, and some of them have never seen what. What do you see when you get into these spaces?
Mkolo, these are some of the things that our people also need to understand. That when we begin, and especially when one goes through initiation, you are given protocols. So now, in one element, when you begin to interact with spirit, or when you begin to interact with the so-called unseen world, everybody's first experience will always reflect the pictures that we hold. So one of the basic teachings in initiation schools is the mastery of our own subconscious mind, which is a very deep concept. Yeah, because now if you are going to be tainted by the filter pictures, then some of the messages that we even get through are going to be distorted. They are going to be distorted. So now we need to clean the soul. We need to purify this being so that they can understand on how to perceive from a natural point of view. I don't know if you understand.
It's a reality.
It is a reality.
Though your physical world has limited dictionary to interpret what you are seeing, but you are seeing what you are seeing.
By it. Because once again, we understand that we have captured our spirits in this time, but it does not mean that we are captured by this time. Meaning that the reality of a so-called spiritual person, and I say so-called purposefully, is to say they begin to interact with aspects of what we would call ourselves, or aspects
in another realm
of what we would call the ancestors. Now, if one is not grounded in those elements, this is when now you begin to be opened up to other elements within the so-called spiritual realm. Now, this is where the dangers come in, because if you do not know how to navigate that space, it can be quite dangerous.
You may go there with one transport and come back with other things.
By it, coal. And those things do exist, because now you have to understand, where does creation begin for the African soul? Where does creation begin when we see the manifested thing? You are late in our program. By it. We do not begin there. This is the final stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is getting complicated for me. My software and my hardware don't have enough rebooting and space to can contain what I'm hearing in one lump sum. But apparently the spiritual realm is an open space where there's lots of spiritual interaction. And your intentions when you move into this spiritual realm will determine what you are going to come back with, whether it's going to be positive or negative, and what kind of spirits you are attracting into that realm. I know it's going to get a bit tricky for the younger viewers who are listening out there. But I want us maybe to move over into the one step backwards. Into now you are initiated and you have access into the spiritual realm. You get messages. And take us through quickly the difference between a Sangoma, a difference between Ikobela, the difference between Wamayeza, the one who does herbs Inyanga, Nesangoma, the one who does the drum. And because immediately, for the educated black man, young into Isango. But and they take this big blanket and they just throw it on everybody that you are a Sangoma. Maybe just as a basic. Why am I saying this? Because there are some people out there who dream herbs. Who actually, and there's some people out there who are herbalists, who have the gift. They dream in the night, they dream of a tree, they go and pick up the tree, 2, 3, 4 hours later, a day later, someone who is sick with the disease is walking in, and they can connect and actually use those herbs. Those things in African epistemologies are a reality. So I just want maybe in your kindness, I know without pushing you too much, in your kindness, can you just maybe take us through a plenary understanding to deconstruct, is not everyone who is a Sangoma. What are the various categories in the space of African spirituality?
Now, this is a very personal thing to me. Why? Having interacted with other worlds, and when I say other worlds, I'm talking about the Caucasian world, the Indian world. Mind you, when I began my studies, I went through the Hinduism movement in trying to understand some of the teachings that were actually links. Because even when one of my ancestors came to tell me I need to go, they showed me books on Hinduism. And I'm like, what nonsense is this? You are telling me I'm going to get initiated in Hinduism. I'm an African man. What are you talking about? But the story gets unraveled later on to say our ancestors are the ones that educated every single race on this planet. That goes without saying. Our ancestors, black Negroids, are the ones that educated this planet. Now, coming back, the African has lost the sense of understanding their institutions. They do not understand why we had these institutions, the consciousness behind the institutions, and what was the purpose and the main anchoring elements that made these institutions necessary for our system of civilization.
Just hold it right there. We are going for a little short break. When we come back on top of the program, we will unpack these institutions, and I want Mkulu Ombethe to take us through the various classifications of our African medicines, African indigenous medicines in their various clusters, from those who are doing herbs to those who are doing drums. What is a Sangoma? What is a Govela? What is the other one? The one who Ikehla and all those things. And these things are duplicated throughout African cultures and beyond. Don't go away. We'll be right back after the break. My name is MAPHONGA J, with your host right here, with your guest here, Ombethe Ombethe Majodina. We'll be right back after the break.
power to defeat coronavirus is in our hands. Play your part by following these 5 basic precautions. Regularly wash your hands with soap and water or sanitizer for at least 20 seconds. Maintain a safe distance of at least 1.5 meters from people around you. Wear a cloth mask at all times when in public. Always cough or sneeze into your elbow or tissue. If you're an employer, screen your employees daily for symptoms of COVID-19 and where appropriate, refer for testing. Working together, we can beat the coronavirus. A message from government.
From rural to urban, we bring you local and international sport.
From Cape to Cairo, from Nairobi to Kinshasa. As we stand out amongst the rest. And we are here to inspire you.
From the Horn of Africa to the Equator's indigenous people.
Galaxy Universal Network. Gelegisa ditaba tse felletseng. Abapenyi bezindaba nezintatheli ezingesabilutho. Bila woga, upendeleo, atokopi chochote.
Channel 500 on Starset. This is Galaxy Universal Network.
On top of the program, we're discussing here a very interesting spiritual journey with Ombethe Majodina, gift to Ombethe, who's taking us through his own spiritual journey. And before we close for the break, we had asked him a very interesting question. In line, can you classify for us the African school of spirituality?
Bayeta mkhulu. Thokozana. Mkhulu, what we must understand is that the school Bungoma is a very high institution. Equivalent, if not higher than your institutions out here. This is for the African soul in their growing. So now, because of the misconceptions that have been put behind this name, Sobusangoma, they closed the door and they never saw that this is an institution that has many facets that it caters to.
Various.
Because in practice, when I'm inside my shrine, my temple, my surgery, I facilitate so many
facets,
roles. On one hand, Mang Bambumut, I'm a chemist. On one hand, I'm a pharmacist. Yeah, come up. When I am diagnosing, I'm working as a sango or as a psychologist and everything pertaining that. And when Nshai Gupo, then I'm entering to a space of my musicianship. When ngifundisa umuntu agida laphayana mkhulu, I'm entering into my choreography and all sorts. So there are so many aspects that we take a student through. So you ask the question, what is a sangoma? Now a sangoma in today's language is your psychics, is your mediums. They deal with the spiritual aspect of things. Your inyanga is the person who is dealing with herbal medicine as a basis of their practice. Others would even consider them igedla. Igedla is someone who deals Namita. Now igedla is one of an advanced school, because now some of the learned men and women in that school are very highly skilled in terms of medicinal knowledge and understanding this earth and what it has to give. Now the initiate will be taken through different aspects of all of these elements. How to speak to nature, how to speak to the elements, how to speak. Things that coming from a religious background were things that were seen as idol worship. But now when you begin to unpack what is the understanding and the consciousness behind why I would arrive at a river, and before I go into that river I need to speak or I need to perform my prayers.
Some herbs. You must speak to the bush.
That is the law.
You must actually take some herbs this side and plant them this side, and then before you touch anything. So there's a whole high level schooling here.
A very deep one. It may take years. So now with Iketla, most of them, it will normally be someone who would have this as a generational thing. So you would find that the grandfather or the grandmother
had that knowledge.
And
it's in your system,
and
your blood.
And again, this is part of our heritage, that some of these things were passed down. They are still being passed down. They are still
whether
being
you
passed
activate
down.
them or not,
But
it's another story.
It's another story.
But your DNA
carries
has some
information.
knowledge.
It has all the data. It has all the information that we need.
So we have learned Iketla is the one who is dealing with
Imiti.
herbs. That's an advanced chemist. In the Ninyanga is the one who can use imiti for the healing purposes. Isangoma is the one who is doing the psychological. Ugobela is the trainer.
The Gobela is the professor.
The professor
is the owner of the shrine.
The shrine. So when you have a dream and you want to initiate and etc., you come through a Gobela, then a Gobela is the one who starts initiating you into various aspects.
Spirit is a language.
Okay.
Spirit is a language. And in that language, you have to understand. And the problem is why someone now would be pointed in the direction to say, Hambio twasa kwasbanban, Hambio ngena kusbanban. It is because there's an agreement that has already been reached in the ether. There's an agreement before we even come here. You know, it's even akin to that verse in Jeremiah. Before you came, I knew you. I knew you and I ordained you.
Okay.
So we knew, I knew.
Why I'm here.
Why I'm here.
Wow.
So far beyond just being people who are just dealing with the health aspect of an individual, this is a very deep spiritual journey that one is going through. And some of these elements of healing are just things that lend themselves to us as we move along. Because now even to say a Sangoma is just these little elements, I haven't touched on the depth of it. And how far it goes, but it's a very intensive school, my lord. It is a very intensive school, and when people don't honor it and understand it at a fundamental,
we quickly rub it off and we throw away. Maybe I want us to step a few steps forward and a few steps backwards in terms of the. I've already introduced the thinking tool, so many of our audience out there are actually aware of what this is. But for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to break our conversation, maybe the last few moments that we have, to say individual health, family health, society's health. What are the elements that you'd actually be looking at for a person who is developing, who must manage their own personal health? What sort of spaces must you prepare yourself before you can actually become spiritually active or spiritually, viable or, useful within the greater spiritual? What sort of physical preparation as an individual first must one go through for them to participate in a spiritual exercise?
It's just unfortunate that today we are using medicine. The natural state of an African is pure health.
Wow.
Because these people, these entities, these energies are the founding fathers and mothers of what we would term the healing fraternity as a whole. So now, what does this mean? It meant that the African understood that the first schools we coming into this world are our families. That is the first school that we enter. That is the first fraternal order, if you want to put it like that we come into. What do we mean? We say this in a sense that when someone is born, they are born of people. And when we look at the people now, we are going to the elements of the surnames that are inherent.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Now, for the African, I don't want to go into the surnames much, but for the African, what was important for us was to understand the totemic energies.
The totem.
We have to understand these elemental forces that reside with us. Because now, you find people acting out of character. You find people acting out of their natural strength.
Because they don't know.
Because they are not anchored. So sizothi umuntu ukhalela isiko, for example. Their energy is not locked into this time frame. So now in aiding, so the African understood that in coming in here, we have to anchor the soul
the doors,
within, so that they can fully function within this time-space reality we called kwanomkhubulwane bayethu. So now, the healer, the seer, the prophet, whatever you want to call it today, understood that when I look at an individual, I am looking at, for argument's sake, I am looking at you on three elements. I'm looking at you from the barakeng, kimmele pelo le moya. So when I look at you, I'm looking at your heart or the soul. I'm looking at the spirit part, and I'm also looking at the physical part. So I do not look at you in isolation. I do not come to you as a robot. I do not shift, and because you are a full composite being. Yeah. You are a full composite being. So in understanding that, the seer understood that I'm dealing with a multi-dimensional
human being. Wow.
I'm not just dealing with an individual soul.
But what you're saying is very critical. Because if we understood that the roots from which we are into existence, they all emit and transmit energies, weaknesses, strengths, gifts, and etc. So by the time you are here, your grandmother or your grandfathers, both on maternal and paternal side, all have contributed towards the you that I'm seeing now. So at the end of the day, if one is supposed to start healing, one is start understanding first the roots from where gift Uzalo Ombethe is coming from. Because some of the problems you're trying to solve on the physical realm here are actually inherited from your history. Am I hearing you correctly?
You are hearing me very well. Because, again, we do not see things in isolation. Our microscope sees deep down into your DNA. And we understood what DNA was. That's why we understood the sacredness of blood. We just didn't spill blood for the heck of it. So now, because we understood this particular language, we are able now to go in there and say, in the programming language of your ancestry, you have missed these dimensions in the soul or in the totemic force of those that you come through or that you have chosen to come through. Because now the African knows that they also chose to come here. So this self-pitying African is an unknown thing to us. But we find ourselves there today.
For example, the way I'm looking today, I deliberately decided to put on this the zebra skin on myself for a very interesting reason. Because my grandmother on my mother's side is a Siziba, who are the Mbedzis, who are the vendors. On my father's side, they're the Dubes, the Tembos. That's where my father slept in a Dube womb. And then my grandfathers are from the Manzokeres, from the father side, and the Sbandas at the back side. So understanding actually your family history becomes instrumental and very critical in terms of you understanding your individuality as a human being.
Now you must also understand that within the African context, njengoba sisho khehla ukuthi the first institutions esifikela kuzo is our families. Now we also have our own things within our families. In other words, our power tools, if you want to put it like that. Where umuntu athi hey yazi umkhulu wakho khona into afuna ukukunikeza yona ezokunikeza amandla ukuthi izinto zakho ziqhubeke. But you are actually trying to activate a certain space in which those beings who have left this information for you tapped into, but you without the ability now. And now the ability comes in at this point to say now the physical apparatus, this lomzimba law is a very important thing. So now the initiate is taught that you need to watch what you eat. That is at the highest level. Before we even get to imithi mkhulu, masesebenza ngemithi.
How do you eat? How do you sleep? How do you drink? How do you relate with others? How do you relate with animals? How do you relate with your environment? So maybe the first principle we can establish is actually the African understanding of medicine is a human being living in harmony with nature.
Mkhulu, this is where some of our people maybe don't understand or don't get it. When they say, from the soul we come and from the soul we shall return. And for anybody, it's like, this is just sand. But here's where the science is. You are the elements. So if you have been to school and you have studied the periodic table. When we are saying you have the elements, we are talking about those particular elements.
The entire chemical
where
table.
Others have even or are attempting to find the code to creating humans, which is cloning.
Playing with the periodic table.
Playing with these elemental energies.
And let's agree quickly again. Let's agree quickly, Mkhulu. Because since we come from the dust, here's where it gets interesting. Since we are made from the dust. The balance of the chemicals that are on the periodic table will determine your health. The deficiencies might put your body in a certain compromising position. The excess might put your body in another condition again. And therefore the issue of balancing between your gold, your silvers, your magnesiums, your potassiums, and etc. And for us actually to understand as Africans, deeply so, that the herbs that we were eating were actually a form of balancing and bringing into the human body the various elements, again of the same ground from where we are coming from.
Ngoba Mkhulu, we must understand that when the body so-called falls ill, it's saying, I am deficient.
Wow.
Now, it's calling out to a certain element that is inherent within this environment.
So bring some more of that stuff.
I need some of that
to
stuff.
Fix this, that is it.
To balance out.
That's where medicine comes in.
This is where medicine comes in. So now, umuntu uzothi ngidibana no nedlozi nomkhulu wami athi mntanami uyabona umhlonyane lapha uyabona izokunceda hamba. And then you, because now you're like it's just
I
flower.
like that definition. I like that definition. You might have just to pause right here and take a small little break. But I like that definition. That when a body is sick, it is actually an alarm that is reflecting and saying, please,
I need to be balanced.
I need balance. I need balance. Because at the end of the day, we're eating lots of junk foods. So we end up populating our bodies with too much of one substance, lots of fuzzy drinks, drinking all these junk foods and etc., breathing contaminated air, and our bodies begin to react in a funny way, which is a sick state. And therefore, medicine for me, whether it is European medicine, indigenous medicines, first thing we need to understand, the viewer out there, is that when you get sick, it is a siren from your body that there is something that I need inside to function. But you have deprived me that.
Because again, understand that this body connects you to the earth. When you are linked to the earth will give you the information you need.
Bambe, right there. For you guys who are Christians out there, we are formed from the dust of the earth. What does it mean? Everything that is in the earth, it is anew. Good health is the balance between the earth that is underneath your feet and the earth that is your body. Don't go away. We'll be right back after the break.
The coronavirus outbreak.
Experience the extraordinary.
Tremendous waste and tremendous fraud. Mexico is, in fact, you will soon find out.
It is a day to celebrate.
We don't approve at all what's going on.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily unusual.
Challenge your ordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality here has had no plan.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat.
The power to defeat coronavirus is in our hands. Play your part by following these 5 basic precautions. Regularly wash your hands with soap and water or sanitizer for at least 20 seconds. Maintain a safe distance of at least 1.5 meters from people around you. Wear a cloth mask at all times when in public. Always cough or sneeze into your elbow or tissue. If you're an employer, screen your employees daily for symptoms of COVID-19 and where appropriate, refer for testing. Working together, we can beat the coronavirus. A message from government.
We are very fortunate for this evening to be sitting with a practicing physical, spiritual, mental health practitioner, an African of note, Ombethe Majodina. And what we are learning is very critical, that your health is not just physical, your health is not just mental, your health is not just emotional, your health is also spiritual. And how do you bring all these elements? And one thing I've learned today is how do you balance the minerals on the periodic chart. And your body, when it gets sick, it is actually a signal that I am not doing well. Give your people out there some basic health tips. We didn't even touch the surface of our conversation. It only means that next week, Monday, or the following week, I'll see if I can bring you back again. Then we can further unpack this, because I really wanted us to get to that end where we can begin to talk about family health, on personal health, and the national health. How can a person get sick? And I'm glad we've done a thorough job on that. But I want us to move to the second level, maybe next week when we come, or the other week. How can a family be sick? By keeping certain spirits within the family, and how do they affect the children that are being born in that family? And the third level would be, is it possible that actually a country can be sick? And now we're looking at the amount of blood that has been spilled through politics, and through crime and greed that is happening. And but for today, that would be too much. Maybe for today, I want us maybe to find a good landing, because I think we've done a good job on the personal health. So give us some basic, your routine. Maybe let me start there. Your routine to keep yourself grounded as a spiritual person. How do you do it? Maybe someone out there can also pick some few bits and pieces as to how they can also run their own personal health space.
It's very interesting. So one of the practices within the fraternity of our healing methodologies within the South African context, uphalaza. Now, purging. So others will be, that's too much of a violent process to do. Now, we step back, a bit back, and we ask, what was behind the science itself? Because our ancestors, before they give you there is a science, there is a train of thought, Master J. There is a train of thought. We just don't arrive at a conclusion. There is a train of thought why they would give it in a particular form at a time. So now, in understanding just a little, that now when phlegm begins to build up,
yes,
esifubeni somuntu wena mkhulu, it clogs up so many things. uyangizwisisa. That's why namathwasa elentos emaphehlweni bazophalaza. Because we're trying to clear up the respiratory system.
Empty the bile also.
And because, again, through the interaction of some of the chemicals that we are not, because now one of the things that we do in initiation is to restrict the diet of lentos. Keep it as alkaline as possible.
Alkaline?
Did I hear you say alkaline? Alkalinity, madala, because neimpande zethu ziyababa ubuningi bazo. Ziyababa. And now, by just getting that alone, informs you, ukuthi now, when it does get into
your body, what does it do?
It neutralizes those acidic elements. So now, there are basic imbiza that people can
Imbiza are concoctions.
These are concoctions. Yeah, some of them are infusions, depending again. But they are just general herbs that just to whether it's a tonic or just general.
So the first thing we're learning palas, which has to do with balancing
again, up. You don't even have to get to the point of palas. Palaza becomes an extreme.
It's an emergency.
It's an emergency.
But if you are eating alkaline diet constantly, your body is doing fine.
Because you don't want foods that are creating too much
acid,
phlegm and acid. Because this is where illnesses incubate themselves, and then they start multiplying themselves within that environment.
Usage of water?
That goes without say. That goes without say. What is it? 6 liters a day or whatever the case may be. Whatever the case may be. So because now, I just want to make this disclaimer to say, now some of EMETA too have other studies have said that it makes people dehydrated and all of those things. And again, at this point, I would say most probably they didn't get the instructions, or someone did not follow the instruction, because one of the important things is that once you have ingested EMETA or whether through Inanzega, then a water program is part and parcel.
Must be part of that. So that if you are eating something that is pulling out the water, there must be another way again of filling up the body with water.
Wow. So once again, the gut is the central point.
We have 1 minute exactly left. Tell me about the stomach being the first brain. The first brain, the spiritual incubation in the stomach. What does that mean?
Mkhulu, we are the energy. We are the energy that manifests into this world. So everything that we take into there is a particular consciousness. Now, when they start now breaking down the elements within there's an intelligence that is working in there. It is not haphazard. There's an intelligence that says, go here, go there, go there, go this, go. When these
energies.
Things and all of the, and even numuntu makazophuza umuthi, you speak to umuthi, you just don't ingest it. Uyawukhulumisa umuthi. When you're going to prep that muthi, you must speak to it. You must have a communion with that muthi, because you understand that now it's going to take form
when it gets into your body.
Into your body. And when that happens, the language now needs to be translated.
Food is a language, which the spirit understands. Ladies and gentlemen, we can go on for the next 3 hours unpacking the mystery behind African medicine. This is the most original, from Kemet to the ancient alchemy and knowledge systems. It's all in our heads. And if you can look at my head very nicely, it's all painted in color. You need also to start learning how to eat according to those colors. For food has a language that your mind and your spirit understands. And when your stomach is contaminated, your entire body is contaminated. With us tonight, Wedubabu Gift, Ombethe Majodina, a practicing African medicine man, taking us through the processes. Please give us your comments on our social media. We will bring him back again, and he will take us further into the depth of demystifying our own African medicines. My name is MAPHONGA J. Vuzijena Chigaramboko Garamashamba Huda Chira Navana Vanji Makumba Mwana Mwesende wa Shano Najigarama Najigarama Tombo Maukeano Vora Chiramba Kusesera Wanamponango Kubawane Mashakumagaro Tizwana Wiramiti Yaso Semukanya Shoko Embire. Until you see again on your program Sankofa. Give some love to our guest. That gift is Ombethe. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a very interesting topic. Thank you.